Hey folks, this is Riker, and the Diablo 4 Q2 2021 quarterly update is now live on the last day of the quarter, and in this video we're going to go right through it, so let's jump right in. And to preface this, again, we're going in with our expectations being characters and character art and asset heavy. That's what the team has told us leading up to this, so I'm not expecting any heavy focus on game mechanics like skill trees or atomization, as much as I love those things. And I know a lot of people look at these updates for the game mechanics talks, but our expectations have been set now at art. Hello and welcome once again to a new Diablo 4 quarterly update. We hope you enjoyed the Rogue class announcement during BlizzCon. We did, thank you. We had a blast creating the Rogue and open world video segments, sharing them with you and seeing your reactions. As we transition back to a blog format, we will continue to spotlight different aspects of development. Today we are going to be focusing on Diablo 4 character art. Player characters, monsters, and allies. Okay, so monsters as well, that's nice. Art is a critical part of what makes Diablo, well, Diablo. Our signature randomized dungeons would not feel like Diablo without the ominous lighting setting the mood as players uncover horrifying details around every dark corner. Combat only feels visceral, thanks to carefully crafted animations and visual effects that make spells and abilities sing. Yeah, that's a great point. So Diablo 3, I feel the feel of the combat, that fluidity, the overall experience of combat is one of the best in any ARPG ever. And a lot of that actually has to do subconsciously with the animations and the visuals. It's everything clicking together. And while stats might make or break an item, we often can't wait to get our hands on a piece of gear purely because of how incredible it looks. That's actually one side of itemization that we don't talk about when we talk about game mechanics, is visual progression of your character. We love progression, we love getting better gear and gear that is better in interesting ways, not just, higher numbers. But also, as you play a game from start to finish, we do appreciate, if only on a subconscious level, the visual upgrade that our character is getting. It helps us with that feeling of making progress, growing, becoming stronger. Character art is equally important as it encompasses two of Diablo's key elements, classes and monsters. The look and feel of the classes has always been one of Diablo's secret ingredients. Each class instantly recognizable and imbued with a strong and unique personality. Very true, and that's why, at least for a Diablo game, I've been opposed to a more build your own class style of game mechanic. I do enjoy that, but not in a Diablo game. I like to see our very clear, well visually defined character archetypes. Diablo 4 offers players more customization options than ever in a Diablo game, which makes achieving that result more challenging, but the outcome is well worth it. Your barbarian is different from anyone else's, but still feels undeniably like a barbarian. Different from anyone else's. That's promising a whole lot of customization. Whoa, I don't, really? Different from anyone else's? Maybe if you take everything together, but just on a visual level? If they accomplish that just on a visual customization level, if this is like Skyrim levels of visual customization, we'll see. With monsters, the focus has been on creating new foes and updating classics drawn from the pantheon of atrocities in our previous games, while using new processes and technology to their fullest. Alright, I now leave the rest of the update in the hands of our very own art director John Mueller, and his team. We hope you enjoy, look forward to your thoughts. As always, let us know what topics you want to hear about in the future. Be sure to stay tuned as we're planning to delve deeper into the topics of sound design and endgame systems later this year. People keep asking me, what do you hope to see about in the next update? Endgame systems is something that I've been talking about for a long time, so that's cool, yeah. I want to know what's a day-to-day going to be like in D4. When I log in to play, once I'm done with the story, what am I going to be doing in the game? Alright, right off the bat here, this is a new asset, new image of Lilith. This is from an in-game cinematic rendered in the D4 game engine. This level of detail is now standard for how we present the major NPCs, classes, and monsters in Diablo 4. Well, that is exquisite. Did they change her eyes? Didn't she have like one blue, one green eye, and weren't her irises... No, weren't the whites of her eyes white and not black? I wonder if this is just for this scene that her eyes have turned black, or if this is just, I guess, a revised or update to her design. Alright, moving on. We are excited to do a deep dive on the character art for D4. This is a pretty exciting topic because so damn much has changed from Diablo 3. Well, I know a lot of people who are happy about that. At this point, the work is a very good representation of what you will see when the game is in your hands. When I think back to the beginning, I think at the highest level, our goal was to make the characters in D4 look as artistic and as handcrafted as possible, using the latest tools and techniques. We did have a concern about leaning into realism in a way that wouldn't have that handcrafted feeling we felt was fundamental to a Blizzard game. Yeah, that's a fair point. So D3 was like very stylized. People would say that Diablo 2 was a very realistic game, and while sure, I mean, we're looking at like 3 pixels forming a character, there was a degree of stylization there that maybe wasn't as apparent. But yes, the overall aesthetic was grittier. It was more grounded in reality. There were less exaggerated proportions. But you didn't look at Diablo 2 and think, well, this is just a picture of reality. And that's something that can often be lost in video games that go for hyper-realism, is there's something, it's almost soulless, where you just look at a screenshot and you're like, this could be any game. We didn't want the characters to feel procedural or generic because of these processes. We also embraced realism in terms of materials and character appearance. I think the touch point being the amazing pre-rendered look from the D3 cinematics. We loved those, the pre-rendered cinematics, yeah. And it felt like a strong foundation to build upon in regards to the characters and achieving that warm quality that came through in the cinematics, but in a real-time game environment. Yeah, that's true. So the D3 pre-rendered cinematics, they were far more realistic versus the heavily stylized in-game visuals. This, of course, is a simplified summary of the thousands of conversations it took to achieve the results we have today. Nobody ever said we shouldn't, we couldn't, or we can't. Everyone said yes, even when it meant starting over or throwing out work. I think this is one of the truly unique aspects of Blizzard. We all said yes and instead of no because. It's a wonderful aspect of working here. I see they're all dungeon masters. You can choose from a variety of personas and customize them with a slew of detail options during character creation. Alright, let's take a closer look at this. This is a rogue, it appears. So it looks like you can select some base character, like in Diablo Immortal, because my first thought when they said more customization than ever was Diablo Immortal actually lets you pick between a few different skins of a class in addition to gender. So now it looks like that same thing, but then also further customization in the form of, I'm guessing, tattoos. The scars are always in the same place. I was gonna think scars as well, but definitely tattoos at the very least. Probably makeup. We can get a closer look here. So on the left, it's more of your classic red-headed rogue we're more familiar with from Diablo 2. Oh, and the earrings as well, look at that. Eye color as well, yellow. Hairstyle remains the same. The clothing changes tint. Then we move into the blonde rogue over here with the blue eyes, different eyeshadow, different kinds of tattoos, different kinds of jewelry. Got the nose ring instead, different tint. Then we got the totally different hairstyle as well. And the facial structure is different here as well. I think these two, it's the same facial structure, and then here it's a distinctly different facial structure. Tattoos different, scars the same, jewelry different. And lastly, we're back to this hairstyle that looks, yes, identical to the first hairstyle, is the facial structure different again. Are these actually all 4 different facial structures? It might be. Yeah, you know what it is. Yeah, the nose here is more upturned, there it's more downturned. So yeah, these are actually 4 distinct facial structures. But in each case, you look at these characters and you do think, well, that's the rogue. That's the really difficult thing to achieve, is to allow for customization and meaningful customization while still having that instantly read as the class that it is. I think a part of that really is when you look at all the different classes as a whole and combine them. It's a little more difficult to judge when just looking at one class, because maybe there'll be some customization of the druid that kind of looks like a barbarian and some customization of the barbarian that kind of reads as a druid. That's the kind of stuff you definitely want to avoid. We made massive improvements to the level of detail, the surfacing of complex materials like skin, cloth simulation, hair, fur, metal, even down to the details of the highlights of the eyes and rivulets of perspiration. Oh wow. We built a robust character customization system that is entirely new to Diablo, and it was a daunting amount of technical character work. These solutions had to work not just for a single character, but for hundreds of componentized armor sets, different body types. Different body types? I presume they mean as in the different character classes have different body types. dozens of unique personas, and completely unique art for 5 distinct classes to start. This is an entirely new challenge for our team to tackle. Alright, going down here, we call this our lair scene. Players will customize the look of their character here in our exciting new wardrobe system that allows you to mix and match hundreds of armor components unique to your class alongside custom color palettes to create the class fantasy that best represents your character. Okay, my first thought when I looked at this in small was that this was like a screenshot of an NPC. Looking closer, I think this is a barbarian. With the context that this is the wardrobe where you customize your character, I believe this is a barbarian. And now that I'm kind of looking past, I guess, the turban, you do have those, you know, the barbarians tend to be topless, right? They have a lot of those straps, a lot of those sort of like kilt-like, I don't know the terms, but that sort of leg and groin area armor that hangs down in straps. And it doesn't just look like a hodgepodge of random stuff together. This has clearly been customized to go with a sort of Loot Golain style aesthetic to their barbarian. That's really cool. So we have a confirmed, I guess, game mechanic. Oh, and look at that. I wonder if that's a little hint of the forge. If this is going to be like our town hub, there's like the crafting station or the blacksmith. But yeah, so full wardrobe system, so it does sound like we're going to have full transmog. Scrolling down here, well, that is obviously a sorceress. Getting in closer there. Damn, she looks evil. Look at those eyes. The red bloodshot eyes. Holy crap. That is an evil aesthetic. It 100% reads sorceress, but this sorceress looks completely different from any sorceress we've seen before. There's this vibe to the tattoos that is just so occult and evil, and like, I can see this character in a horror movie. Like a good horror movie, none of those garbage ones like most of them. One of the benefits of the investment we've made in our character art development pipeline is that now most of our story cutscenes will be rendered in our engine using the game models. In previous Diablo games, the high fidelity cinematic story moments were all pre-rendered. Oh, are we not getting those? Okay, because I really love those pre-rendereds, but that was always because in-game cutscenes just couldn't match that quality. I'm still dubious that we're there. We will still have, okay, we will still have those amazing cinematic moments. Wait, no. Okay, from Blizzard Animation, but now we also have, okay, they're not getting rid of those. Okay, good. But now, in addition to that, we also have cinematic moments that feature your character up close, rendered in our game engine. Cool, okay. So, like, I think of StarCraft 2. StarCraft 2 had a lot of in-game rendered cutscenes. You know, StarCraft 2 released in 2010, and while they looked good, it was clear they weren't pre-rendered, full-blown, super highest quality possible cinematics, and I was a touch disappointed because of that. I still enjoy them. I'd rather have it than not have it at all. So now we're, you know, over a decade later, the technology has evolved a lot more, but again, we're not getting this instead of the pre-renders, we're getting this in addition to. We've been working closely with the legendary Blizzard Animation team to bring as much of their knowledge into our process as possible. The Rogue Announced trailer was created entirely in our game engine, so the quality of the Rogue trailer, that's what we can expect, is my understanding, from the quality of the in-game rendered cinematic moments. Alright, all things Diablo are in service to our isometric point of view. The fidelity we put into the characters and the balance of detail all has to work with our game camera. Those looking closely will notice we like to work with bigger shapes on the armor, and we tend to reduce things that affect readability. I think we found a sweet spot of detail that retains the readability, works well with the environment, but also keeps things looking grounded, which is super important for this vision for Sanctuary, and how we present the world to you, our most important critic. That's another thing, right? Like, with just pure realism, are you going to get a game that is going to deliver the best experience from a gameplay perspective? You want readability. When there's action on the screen, you want players to be able to understand instantly what's going on without needing a couple seconds to parse what pixels are what. I think it's really easy to take for granted everything that goes into deciding the visual style and just the visuals of a game. I think a lot of us just think like, well, just make a cool looking dude with a cool armor, you know? And don't really think that there's so much more that goes into all the decisions that might be more, boring to think about, but are so critical to the overall aesthetic of a game. All right, on to our lead character artist here. Deeper dive into character customization and some of the visual improvements we developed for D4. You'll be able to change the face of your character, the hairstyle, the facial hair, beards and eyebrows, and add jewelry, nose piercing or earrings, makeup, and body scarring such as tattoos or body paint. You will also be able to change the color values of the character's skin, eyes, hair, facial hair, and body markings. Some elements will be class-specific to support the class's unique backgrounds, but many will be shared between classes, allowing more possibilities to mix and match. Now I want to talk about some of the challenges we faced. Dark fantasy meets realism through physically based rendering, PBR. D4 is intended to have a look that is grounded in reality, and to achieve that we need to follow some basic rules of color value, such as PBR, which means our materials look and react to light in a realistic way. The challenge for the 3D artist is to transfer the color of a concept drawing to a PBR value. For example, in PBR, silver is a very bright gray, almost white, and the reflection of the material makes it look darker. All characters in D4 follow PBR to ensure that our characters look as good in daylight as they do in a dark dungeon. Expanding the dye system, yes. D3's dye system was great, but it was just a taste of really what we wanted for full dyeing customization. Our dye system allows you to change the color palette of your armor pieces, such as changing silver to gold or replacing white cloth for black cloth, etc. Each part of the armor can be dyed, including the helmet, chest, gloves, legs, and boots. You can dye each piece with a different color palette if you choose, or apply the same palette to all of them. We added data to our armor that identifies specific material types and tells the dye system what color goes on what material, such as leather, fabric, metal, and other specific surfaces. The result is armor that is dyeable in a range of colors that still feel grounded and realistic in the world we're building for D4. So we're cycling through here a bunch of the different dyeing possibilities. And yeah, they all look realistic. Nothing looks garish or fake. I mean, in fairness, they are choosing which combinations to show us, so this could be curated to only show us the best looking combinations. But for instance, some of the dye options in D3, when you either dye metal a certain color, it kind of looks, it just doesn't look good. Alright, scrolling down. Sorceress Armor Set dyed in 3 different color palettes. And actually the most interesting thing for me here is the look of the Sorceress. That is a Sorceress unlike any Sorceress we've ever seen. Short, blondish or gray hair compared to this, the darker aesthetic. Hey, she has the same blue rim light like I do. And then here, I think it's the same face. It's still that very Caucasian face, which again that's a new look for the Sorceress. But now she's either younger or has more of a classic black long hairstyle. Close-up look at our camera. The game camera is one of our top priorities, as we want to make sure the character looks good and readable from the isometric perspective. It's the first thing we consider in character development. That said, the player character will be displayed in a lot of different ways throughout the game, whether that's the character customization screen, the inventory paper doll, social screens, and our real-time cinematics, which will often zoom in for a closer view of the character than in the rest of the game. To support that, we have added an extra layer of texture called detail mapping. Detail mapping is a small, repetitive texture applied on top of the material that bring more sharpness and detail to the main texture. So I'm gonna guess like on leather, it might be a little bumpy texture. On metal, it might be kind of scratches and dents. Every armor set in D4 has 2 body types. Here is an armor set for barbarians with some subtle differences between the 2. Wait! So we can actually change body type? Oh, body type as in, okay. I get it. It's because they didn't want to say the booba body type and the non-booba body type. Although, I mean, those are some nice boobas. You can actually see the hairs on the backs. Look at that detail. And on the forearm, you see the hair as well. And I don't think that's a texture. I think those are actually rendered out. Another example of different rogue body types wearing the same armor set. I know people were eager to see more of the male rogue. I'm guessing it's the one on the left. Look at that mask. That is cool. Here's a video clip in slow motion of the rogues, which we recorded in our real-time engine. So this is all being rendered real-time. That dark cloak, the face cast and shadow, we can see a little bit of it poking through. Plague Doctor mask, yes! Ah, oh, that's like some kind of shredder mask. Look at that. That's cool. Hey, it's kind of like The Witcher. A little bit. Geralt. Oh, look at that mask over the eyes. So we're seeing a lot of different mask types. I'm guessing this is going to be like a rogue specific item. Look at that. Oh my goodness. That aesthetic. Okay. Oh, look at that. Dyed a different color. Almost like the Predator. A lot of those sort of blind masks. I wonder if that's like the Sisterhood of the Sightless Eye. It almost looked like a sci-fi mask. That reminded me of, what is the game? Destiny? I don't know what I'm looking at. Oh, the skull. Scorpion! Oh, now we're looking like Mortal Kombat characters. This is amazing. That is ominous. Again, we got those sort of occult tattoos. There's a distinct style to the tattoos. Alright, someone looking a little bit more, I'm gonna say mundane. Someone who's, I guess, more likely to be able to stealth around and not look like an evil monster man who's coming to assassinate you. Speaking of evil monster men, look at those skulls. That is amazing. That aesthetic of like the coins, like the buttons look like coins. Ah, it's like the smokescreen attack, I imagine. This one looks more like a ranger a bit. Green theme. So we're seeing lots of crossbow usage. We saw crossbows and bows. We see double daggers. That is more of your classic rogue, right? Lurking in the shadows. Look at that. The little bits of chainmail. Man, this game is looking good. This is in-engine. Is that eye glowing? That is ominous. Look at the cloth sim there. Wow. This is in-game. In-engine rendered. As in, this is what our character's gonna look like in-game with this level of detail. Oh my goodness, what is this? What is this? Man, that last transmog was incredible. Holy crap. That's definitely less in the realism part. I'm wondering if that's like meant to be sort of endgame GG armor set. Fully demonic. Here's another slow motion video of the barbarians. All these armors are a work in progress. Some are still subject to adjustment. Alright, our Barbarian Brethren here. So my first thought when I see this actually is, oh, is that a rogue? But I didn't see the full body. Like there, that definitely reads Barbarian. Oh my god, I love this. Wow. That reads Barbarian, 100%, right? We got the furs, those sort of Celtic symbols. Yeah, that still reads Barbarian, even with a turban. Even the body language, right, is conveying it. Look at that. Oh man. The giant furs hanging from the back. The horns, those patterns in the leather, those sort of geometric patterns. Boom. That's a barbarian. Yeah, even though we have those unifying tattoos that all look kind of the same across all characters. That is some Conan the Barbarian, you spin me right round. It's the spin to win, it's the whirlwind! So wielding a Crushbane. Look at that, the horns. Those sort of like dread helms, that sort of tribal nature to them, those sort of Viking vibes, all very barbarian. Look at that mask. Oh man, those, I guess skull masks? I don't know how to describe them. Almost looks like Leatherface. Man, coming at you like that is like a horror. If you saw that guy in a horror movie, that could be like the new Leatherface. Look, speaking of horror movies, dude. Look at that. My goodness. That looks like a warlord charging into battle. Again, the horns, the furs, all reads very barbarian. Apart from that, again, that very first scene, I was like, was that a rogue? Everything else has read very barbarian to me. The way he sits like Conan on the throne. Conan, the prototype of all barbarians. This was just scratching the surface for what's to come in D4 in terms of character customization. In fairness, right? So much of your character is covered under gear that... you spend, I mean, it's the typical cliche in a fantasy game, right? You spend like 2 hours customizing your character's face and then he wears the helmet for the whole game. Alright, going on here. Now we're going to talk about monsters. With monsters, success requires that many different things come together, but it starts with the player feeling satisfied in killing it. That means the monster needs to visually match its gameplay and have a gory/demonic twist to it. They should look like something you have not seen before, as well as taking something visually familiar and brushing it with a Diablo paintbrush. That Diablo brush applies a level of detail an understanding of gameplay needs, a level of artistry, and the demonic Diablo theme to all our monsters. Visual design and gameplay intent. For me, everything starts with a goal. Typically, it's a goal from design on what this monster needs to do and what the player experience should be. Making games is a collaboration. Sometimes a visual concept helps drive an idea, while in others, a paper design is enough. That's another one of those things, right, where people kind of just take for granted what goes into designing a monster. Just like, just make some cool looking monster. The Blood Bishop, we've seen this guy in quick little snippets in footage. Design goal for the Blood Bishop was to create a caster who would cast direct damage and create AoE bombs for Area of Denial. As for the visual notes, we wanted a high-level boss based on vampiric blood and magic. We knew we wanted to double down on the notion of a heart shape for the function of the blood magic. Oh, interesting. That naturally led to the notion of arteries, creating these blood clots that explode to cast the AoE effect design needs. An exposed beating heart was the natural visual choice. So the organic pulsing we see, the flowing arteries, and the blood-based visual effects all combined to reach an aligned goal the team could get behind. The success here is when the game design needs were met visually in a true Diablo way. A close look at that Blood Bishop there, the pulsing, look at that. And he's wearing, what is that? That's that same symbol again. Is that the Church of the Zakarum? There's a close-up at that. The pulsating and the veiny textures. What am I seeing here? There's some kind of translucency going on? What is this? Is this blood running down the crown? Something's going on that's throwing me off in this screenshot. It almost looks slightly like one of those red, blue, old school 3D drawings. And the detail, that cloak, that does look like a heart. Right. Look at that. The Skeleton Lord. This process was similar, but this time we had a visual concept to work from. This undead skeleton lord is made of fused skeleton and body parts, with sinew and blood connecting it together, something we felt fit our game visually. Blood and bone, that don't belong in Diablo, get out of here. That led to a design lead wanting to create a fight based on this character. The design team was able to create a unique fight based on bone visuals, summoning skeletons, bone walls to restrict pathing, and leveraging the giant staff. So it's a bit like the Skeleton King, right? One attack has a skeleton lord smashing the staff into the ground and creating a shower of exploding bone shards. Here's that skeleton lord. Look at that staff, that's interesting. Oh, it's like the spokes of a wheel. Yeah, he has the, I mean, I don't know the terms, the axle, the shaft with the wheel at the end of it. Yeah, and he doesn't just look like a skeleton, he does look like a collection of bones coming together to make something. But not just in a hodgepodge way, there is rhyme and reason to what bones are going where. Cool. The skull in that cage. All the skulls coalescing there. The ropes also add this sort of macabre effect. I don't know if that's intended to look like a noose, but it reminds me of a noose. The chains as well, right, evokes this concept of binding, of dungeons, of being trapped, confined. It's almost like every part of his body is made from multiple bones of that body part. The right artistic detail for the game. We also need to look at our assets from two main focal points. Our game camera and a closer full body size camera. This means we need to understand what is important and what is supporting these elements in terms of overall shape language and finer secondary and tertiary details. Details need to be readable for the game, colors need to group well, silhouettes need to stand out, as well as being built for performance and movement. Understanding this is key to allowing our monsters to look great from our isometric camera while also delivering stunning details up close. This spider feeding upon and birthing spider spawn from a bloated corpse has a great visual design. Well, this is a new monster to me. Arachnophobia warning. Oh, goodness. Oh. That is... Oh man, this is the new head crab. Oh, man, this is hitting upon two different phobias. There's the arachnophobia, and then there's also the, what is it, tryptophobia? There's some fear of, like, holes? Something like that, where you got these open holes in the body. Oh, you can just feel that. Gosh. Get close on some of that detail. Oh, yeah, great. Thanks for the nightmares. Yep, nice zoom in on that. The dribbling fluids. Goodness. The saturated red of the spider on top of the cooler and more subdued body help pop the spider visually so your eye catches it as soon as they show up on screen. When we look closer, you can see the spectacular highlights on the bloated body, the torn and pulled flesh, and the bulging pustules. Yes, those wonderful pustules. This succubus, this is gonna be not safe for YouTube. Another great example of an interesting and clear visual read from gameplay. Familiar silhouette, winged demon hovering to seduce its prey and attack with magic from a distance. Alright, let's look. Huh. Yeah, you got the wings attached to the head. Alright, yeah, look at that. Those glowing blue eyes. Those blue ring eyes. I like the play of shadows across the face. Makes it ominous. Definitely a more armored look to the succubi than we're accustomed to seeing. Yeah, I almost got like this armor plating even on the wing appendages. And that little forked tail there at the end. Definitely reads demon. I mean, there's a lot of different demons, but I think the succubus is one of the more classic looking demons. Modern pipeline. This knight is covered head to toe in metal and fabric that reacts differently based on lighting. This knight, okay, well, we're talking about monsters. So we know that the final class is not the knight. This appears to be a villain, a monster. He's called the Pale Knight. Look at that. He has this sort of like Inquisitor-like appearance to him. So adding those studs gives off that evil vibe. And that looks like a very zealous holy symbol. That mix of red and gold and then the overall black. It definitely gives off this menacing zealot kind of knight vibe. It's almost got that sort of Warhammer quality to it, actually. Whoa, now, something different happens. You see this is a white shield. But when we click on it, this is the screenshot that we're taking to. They changed out an asset there at the last moment, it looks like. That polearm weapon. It's like a mixture, what is it, a halberd, maybe? Alright, now, fur, bone, and flesh, and blood. Let's see this. What are these, bloodhounds? Oh my goodness, what is this? How many heads is this? Yeah, gruesome. The way those spikes come through the fur and the skin, like, it does look wounded where the spikes are coming through. Here's another place where the thumbnail doesn't match the image. In the thumb, you can kind of see like ribs and what appears to maybe be a skull of some kind here. But then you click on the image and you get this, which is definitely different, but offers a different view. What are these, like teeth forming behind some kind of flesh membrane? The word membrane, when referring to organic substances, is never a nice word. Ugh. So that is a brief rundown of some of the things we look at. And value when it comes to monsters in D4. We really enjoy creating enemies, monsters, and demonic creatures that bring out an emotional response from our players. Yeah, those are some emotions. From fear or revulsion to the excitement of slaying them in true Diablo fashion. In closing, I'd like to say that there are moments as a developer where you are just making the game day in and day out, and you don't always take the time to appreciate the craft on display that you are privileged to see every day. I love that we are doing these vlogs. We hope you like what you see, and please share your comments on your platform of choice. So there you have it, folks. That is the Q2 update for 2021. Q3 update, probably going to be the end of September. And again, it's going to cover sound design and end game systems. And if you've missed any of these updates, I got a video on each of them. You can also just go to my website, Riker.com, and have a list of all the D4 videos that I have all in one neat place. Also, as a quick merch plug, we've got these t-shirts now available in the store. Riker's Raiders, I call it the Necro Druid design, evoking some good boy imagery, some skulls. Let's start a heavy metal band. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders for more Diablo content.